Frequently, I'm asked if quantitative is better than qualitative risk analysis. The question percolates through all of the risk work I've done over the years. And the answer is not that simple. While measured data sometimes can be better, it's not always the case. We have to evaluate the quality of the data before we can depend on it. Measured data has advantages and disadvantages. If done correctly and with rigor, it's very powerful. It provides a solid foundation for analysis and offers the opportunity to repeat measurements, reliably quantify changes over time, and evaluate the impact of our risk management actions. However, it's dangerous to simply accept measured data. Not all measurements are equal. Some methods are more reliable than others. Some suffer from poor repeatability, or they may yield measured values that are strikingly different from reality. And to compound matters, it can be really difficult to distinguish between good data and bad data. So it's prudent to validate measured data, understand its strengths and weaknesses, and only use it where it's defensible and appropriate. Bluntly, bad data is worse than no data at all. It offers a false sense of security, and users may simply accept the numbers as gospel without any further thought. Good data, verified, validated, calibrated, and confirmed, is worth its weight in gold. But it's dangerous to assume that all data meets this standard. Sometimes it's just numbers. And what happens when there is no measured data? Typically, we only monitor and measure things that we know we need to monitor. These are the things that have previously demonstrated their impact on our decisions, and we demand good data to support our analysis. But if we don't know we need the data, we don't measure. So there's a gap in our understanding about this sort of issue. Historically, it may not have been a concern. We didn't measure because we didn't need to. It had no impact on our decisions or on our day-to-day life. If we find that sort of gap and believe it's important to fill it, we can't simply go back in time and in retrospect start to measure. We have to first identify the gap and figure out how we're going to fill it. And by its very nature, climate change is full of data gaps. Things are changing quickly, and knowledge gaps are appearing just as quickly. We may not have the data we wish we'd started to monitor all those years ago. So what do we do? And this is where qualitative analysis shows its strength. Before I go much further, I have to acknowledge that qualitative approaches have their fair share of strengths and weaknesses, but in the absence of good measure data, they offer a path forward. We need to be clear that when we refer to qualitative analysis, we're not talking about wild-ass guesses. Rather, the analysis draws on a different kind of knowledge that may not readily be translated into numbers and graphs. And this sort of knowledge could include experience, especially experience of similar incidents, training and technical skills based on years of study and real-world practice, traditional knowledge based on generational memory and oral history, local knowledge, knowing what happened here before and how staff and management and community responded, especially what worked and what didn't work, or analysis of similar incidents. There's very little that's new under the sun. What we think may happen here may have already happened somewhere else, and we can extract information that can help us. History, beyond local knowledge, in the broader sense, what's happened in the past? How did systems and people respond? What helped and what made things worse? And any other source of knowledge we can get our hands on. This is not an all-inclusive list. The takeaway is that beyond numbers, there's a wealth of information we can draw upon to inform our work. And even when we have the numbers, these non-numeric sources can help us validate the data. But how do we validate qualitative data? This is where professional judgment kicks in. By professional judgment, I'm referring to the combined skills and experience of a group of informed, knowledgeable individuals who evaluate the information through their respective expertise. Through consultation with each other, they can arrive at a unified understanding of the information and its bearing on the overall analysis. Typically, no one individual has all the background and experience needed to pass final judgment. It's a consultation. Does this mean that qualitative information is superior to quantitative information? Not at all. It simply means we can use a variety of sources to establish information to guide our analysis. Where we have good numbers, we use them. Where we don't, we use qualitative data. And we usually end up with a blend, using wherever possible the best of both worlds. And there's one added benefit of qualitative analysis. It helps us identify and assess gaps in the numerical database. Along the way, it offers an assessment of the relative importance of the missing data, and this often leads to new monitoring. At the end of the day, it's not a question of which approach is better. It isn't black and white. We use all the resources at our disposal to provide a robust analysis. And this avoids the trap of failing to assess a potential risk because no one has thought it necessary to measure the data to this point. The approach allows us to move forward, identify risks, and start new work on filling the gaps. And in this way, we're better prepared to manage climate risk, even in areas where we have not yet started to do numerical monitoring. Both are necessary. They support each other, and they ensure the integrity of the data we use in our work.